How we doing, everybody? We are back with episode 9 of Banter from the Bench podcast. Took some time away for the 4th of July holiday, so I hope you guys all had a wonderful and safe 4th of July. Obviously, with some time off, a lot of stories have passed, so we have plenty to pack into today's episode. So stay tuned. We are about to dive in.
Sounds great.
All right, Kevin, I don't know about you, but after a week off, feeling pretty rested, recharged, but definitely glad to be back here talking some sports with you, and excited for all the people that didn't quit listening last week when we stopped and carried over into this week. So if you're one of those people and you're listening now, thank you for that. But yeah, excited to get back on here and talk some sports with you.
Yeah, me too, man. I think we've got a lot of interesting storylines. You know, we've got some free agency news for both NBA and NHL. Obviously, we do the same thing every episode. We start with some national storylines. So I think a good place to start for today's episode would be NBA free agency recap. I can cover a couple signings. Maybe we touch on those, and then we'll dive into a few more and kind of give our thoughts there. So I'll start. Klay Thompson, obviously one of the bigger names in transactions the last couple of weeks. He agreed to a sign-and trade to land with the Mavericks, 2 second-round picks going back to the Warriors there, and then Klay Thompson signed a 3-year, $50 million deal. The other really big name, Paul George, which, you give or take, you can call it a big name or not. I mean, he doesn't seem to do well wherever he goes nowadays, but he still made himself $212 million with the 76ers. That's across 4 years. Another 76ers signing, Tyrese Maxey, more so an extension than an actual outright signing, but a 5-year extension, $204 million. I think we'll probably start with those three. So what sticks out to you between Klay, Paul George, and Tyrese?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised at the value of Klay Thompson's contract. I know his health's been an issue, as well as he just isn't quite the same Klay he used to be on the court. But I thought he probably would have got a little bit more money than that, especially with the way that the NBA, which you kind of just mentioned without directly saying it, with the way they just give out money with some of these contracts. I figured he would get more, but I kind of like that signing for Dallas. Obviously, they were in the finals last year. It didn't work out the way they hoped, but they're clearly trying to continue to make another run at this thing and looking to fill holes on the roster, I guess. I don't know if that would have been like move number one for me, but a good one nonetheless to get a guy with a championship pedigree coming into your organization. That'll obviously always help. That brings us to Paul George. He was looking like he was maybe going to go to the Lakers or the Warriors and ended up going in Philly. It seemed like as we got closer and closer to free agency that Philly was going to be ended up being his destination, and it did end up being true. That's where he signed. I guess, Philly, they're pretty desperate, right? They've been trying to win for a handful of years now with the core that they have. Obviously, Maxey developing into the type of player he is. That's a nice added bonus to that. But, I don't know. I don't know if Paul George is the answer for them, and they had a move had to be made one way or another. I just don't know if I would have given $200 million out to Paul George and thinking like that's going to fix our issues. So, good for him for cashing in, and he probably would have cashed in no matter where he went. But I guess an interesting move by Philly. I'm just not super crazy about it, I guess.
Yeah, Philadelphia is one of those teams where they're the regular season superheroes, and then the playoffs start, and it almost looks like a totally different team. So kind of the same story with Paul George. It'll be interesting to see what he does for the 76ers. I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's one end of the spectrum or the other. It's going to be highly toxic, or for some reason he was just the right piece for them. So we obviously won't know until about mid-year next season, but yeah, some interesting moves. I mean, Tyrese Maxey almost got the same amount of money as him. There's another year on that contract, but still, they shoveled $204 million out to him too. Now, one guy we talked about in our podcast during the NBA Finals, Derek White, signed a 4-year, $125 million deal to stay in Boston. And just as of today, which is Wednesday, July 10th, he's replacing Kawhi Leonard on the Team USA basketball team. So he's had himself one hell of a year, kind of the resurgence of Derek White year. So he got a 4-year, $125 million contract. Tobias Harris, 2 years, 52. Isaiah Hartenstein, this is a guy that was highly touted, just a pretty productive big man. 3 years, $87 million with Oklahoma City. So I'll leave it at those three and collect your thoughts on those.
Yeah, so the Tobias Harris signing I thought was kind of interesting in the sense of I didn't expect Detroit to do that, and another move I don't think we have listed there that they did do since then too is they signed Cade Cunningham to an extension which was over $200 million. I don't know the exact amount. I don't know the length. What I do know is I wouldn't feel great about giving Cade Cunningham that money, but unfortunately for Detroit, they're kind of forced to do it because it's like, well, what else are you going to do? I just don't think Cunningham's maybe worth that much. But
that was a 5-year deal.
Yeah, but interesting that Harris did go to Detroit. I think he's a guy, he's bounced around a little bit lately, and he's been in Philly for a handful of years, but for the most part, over the bigger picture, tail end of his career has bounced around to different contenders, and I kind of thought that's what he would do again, but if he's signing in Detroit, I'm guessing he just went for the money, and he's happy with that. I think he played in Detroit before. I'm not 100% sure. Okay. I was going to say, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I thought he did. So just kind of that was a surprise signing for me. One that I guess I didn't see coming, but at the same time too, I keep dogging Detroit, but they do got to try to win at some point because they keep getting unlucky in the lottery. So I guess the only thing for them to do is maybe spend some money in free agency, but I haven't really paid attention to their moves too much, and all I've seen are these two, and if that's the only moves they make heading into next season, that doesn't really do anything for me. So yeah, kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on those guys? Derek White too. Good for him cashing in. Good for the Celtics for trying to keep the band together. You don't see that too often with championship teams, but that's a lot of money for Derek White.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me here is Tobias Harris, 2 years, $50 million. Klay Thompson, 3 years, $50 million. So Tobias Harris got paid more money on a shorter term deal and more average per year, which is kind of crazy to me. I feel like there's more value to Klay, but I don't know. Maybe just his injury history tells teams otherwise. So that was, I think, my biggest takeaway. The others are pretty self-explanatory. I know Isaiah Hartenstein was being floated around with a couple different teams, but last couple here, Chris Paul, 1-year deal with the Spurs, Buddy Hield, sign and trade, sending him to Golden State. Chris Paul, honestly, I don't really feel like that's much of a transaction nowadays. He's kind of started to fizzle out. Very productive throughout his entire career, but lately you haven't really seen a whole lot out of Chris Paul. Buddy Hield, I think, is a really nice move by Golden State. I think Buddy Hield, obviously he's a shooter. He's a pretty high-volume shooter. I think he needed the right situation to continue to be successful, and I think Golden State is a great place for him to land. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's a really good fit for him. He'll have less pressure on himself just being on the same court as Steph Curry, and Steph being able to be the primary ball handler for him. He'll be able to get him open shots, things like that. So might see a little bit of I don't know if resurgence is the right word, but maybe Buddy Hield's stock's going to rise here, and I don't know the length of his contract, but maybe he's doing a little bit of a long play here and getting his stock up so he can get a big payday coming up here soon. I've always been a pretty big fan of him. I know back in the day when the Bulls were looking to trade LaVine to the Kings, it was centered around Buddy Hield at that time, and I thought that would have been a good move for them. But yeah, that's a good move. It'll be fun watching him. in Golden State. I think he'll be a good fit there. Chris Paul to the Spurs. I like that fit. I think it's a good start to help the development of Victor Wembanyama. Probably not a long-term piece for them. I guess he just play out that 1 year and then go back to the market, or maybe he calls it quits after that. I know we're kind of getting close to that point for Chris Paul too, but he's going to get the ball to Wemby a lot, and he's going to get the ball to Wemby a lot in creative ways, and I think we're gonna see Wemby take a pretty big step forward because he has Chris Paul doing that, but also Chris Paul's leadership and stuff too. Having all that's going to be really valuable to him. So, I mean, for the Spurs to get someone like that for $11 million, that's pretty good. It's not going to push them towards contention or anything close to it, but definitely a good guy to have in the locker room. And also, too, we'll get a little bit more into these details later on because it's a Bulls-specific situation, but now we know that the Spurs also have Harrison Barnes, too, so another good veteran to have around Wemby, and they just really got to figure out what they're going to do after this, but it seems like they're at least committed to, hey, we got this superstar, let's make him happy, let's try to win, and let's keep him in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, we, like I said, or like you said, we can dive more into the DeRozan move because I think that was a pretty good trade for the Spurs too, but to stick with NBA in general, we've got the Summer League that's kicked off now. I think there's been a total of 2 games per team. Tonight will be the third. Just for the fun of it, me and Sean decided we were going to commit to a team for the Summer League on who we thought was going to take home the Summer League title. I personally picked the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, if you look at their roster, nothing really like jumps out at you. But why I like them, obviously they've got Zach Edey on their team. There's no hiding that. They've got, what I really liked is they've got Gigi Jackson, who had a successful career or had a successful season last year. They've got Scottie Pippen Jr. He kind of had a little bit of a bump in his collegiate career towards the end of his collegiate career. But what I really liked about them, if you look at years of service, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys who have at least 2 years in the league. They've got a couple other guys on the roster who have already been in the league. So I personally think that gives them a little bit of an advantage, but Summer League is Summer League. Anything can happen. They're 1-1 right now. I know I won't tell anybody who your pick is, but I know your team's 1-1 right now too. So who do you have? Who'd you pick?
Yeah, so it was a tough choice for me. It was between the Utah Jazz and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I ended up going with the Utah Jazz just because I was looking up and down their roster. And granted, it's probably going to change by the end of Summer League, but what they're rolling out with right now, they're a freaking loaded Summer League team. They got Max Abmas. I don't know if people remember him from Oral Roberts in the NCAA tournament a few years ago. He transferred to Texas. He's on their team. They got Armando Bacot, who's from North Carolina, was a previously big prospect. And then they got Isaiah Collier, their rookie from USC, Kyle Filipowski. One guy I liked that I didn't think was going to be on there, but he is Walker Kessler. So I was like, hey, I don't know if they're trying to boost his stock or something to maybe get a little bit more value for a trade, but I was like, he should do pretty good. And then they got Kenny Lofton Jr., long Summer League guy. He's been around for a little bit. He knows how to win in the Summer League. He's seen a lot of those games and stuff. So I just overall kind of like their roster they have. And then obviously they got Cody Williams, a rookie from Colorado too. So they had a pretty big draft class, and I liked their roster that they got. I know our 2 teams played the other night, and the Jazz won a close one, and then they got blown out pretty bad last night. So I think the way it works is, so many teams make the playoffs for the Summer League, and it goes off win-loss record, but then it also goes off point differential too. So like this game that they had last night where the Jazz got blown out, like that could very well decide their fate and my future title hopes in the Summer League. So, but they got a squad too, and Minnesota, they got a squad as well. I was just looking at them. Obviously they got Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr., but then they got Leonard Miller, their rookie from last year. He tore up the summer league. They got Jalen Clark, their rookie from last year. He didn't play at all this year, so I think he'll be taking the court. Then they got guys like Joe Weiskamp from Iowa. They got Josh Minott, who's been in the league for a couple of years. So I just kind of like their roster too. Daishen Nix, another guy that's been in the league for a bit, but not to go off the rails here, but ultimately I ended up going with the Jazz. But my main decision was, let's see whose roster looks the best.
Sean, you spent hours diving into these rosters and figuring out what team you wanted to pick. You were really going for it on this one.
I'm not going to lie, I did look at every single team's roster.
I believe that. I'm surprised you didn't go with the Pacers, so that way you could have rode with your boy from Akron.
Yeah, I thought about it. I honestly, and we'll talk about it at some point, I was like, hey, the Bulls got a decent team too.
Yeah. Obviously, they've got Matis Buzelis, but we can dive into that at a later date. I mean, they've got Domask from Illinois, so I don't know, some local guys. Yeah, they've got
Julian
some local
Phillips.
Guys. Cool. Well, I know I'm going to be watching Summer League just to watch my team win the title, Memphis Grizzlies. I'm really relying on you here. Moving forward, so another league. Free agency opened. We've got NHL free agency to dive into. Obviously, there was a ton of moves. One of the teams making a lot of them themselves, Nashville Predators. They kind of went wild this year. I mean, they signed Steven Stamkos 4 years, $8 million. That's $8 million a year, if I'm correct. Yeah, yep. 4 years, $8 million a year. Jonathan Marchessault, is that how you say that?
I think so. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Sean, you're supposed to know this. You're the hockey guy. Brady Skagey, 7 years, $7 million a year. Panthers locking up Sam Reinhart. He was obviously a big name during their Stanley Cup run. Patrick Kane goes back to the Detroit Red Wings on a 1-year deal, which I thought was really interesting. And personally, I think one of the better moves in the offseason is a guy whose name was being floated around a ton for trade talks. Lightning traded for Jake Gensel and then signed him to a 7-year, $9 million per year. So obviously a lot of moves by the Predators. Blackhawks had a lot of themselves, but we'll dive into that on the Chicago portion. So what did you like about certain teams, or honestly maybe even dislike about certain teams' moves?
Yeah, I thought Nashville did a really good job. Obviously that required them spending a lot of money, and getting Steven Stamkos to Nashville is interesting. I just could have never envisioned him playing there. It would have been hard to envision him playing anywhere other than Tampa Bay, but Nashville, I just couldn't really see it. But they went out and got it done. I think they were able to take advantage of the situation that Tampa created for them, because it seemed like Tampa was kind of shitty with Stamkos on the way out, and just the whole exchanging of contract ideas, things like that. I don't even think they really communicated with him a whole lot from what I have seen. Now I could be wrong about that. Yeah. And turns out, that was a prelude to Tampa Bay getting Jake Gensel, which is a great move for them, like you were saying. And, Nashville is going to benefit a lot from Stamkos and just the whole group of guys they brought in. It was pretty fun free agency. The first day was pretty wild. A lot of moves were happening, and then it started to slow down a little bit. I think the Blackhawks, I know we'll get into them in a little bit, but I think they were maybe the most active. I think they made 8 moves on day one.
Crazy.
If not, it was about 6, maybe 7, and then they had a late one trickle in. So it was just exciting seeing all the teams make moves, get ready for the season, and just the changing of the sweaters and things like that. So all in all, pretty exciting time. It seemed like a lot of people were plugged in and following her along with free agency, and there were pretty good amount of high-profile guys that were out there and available. I know one thing that kind of surprised me was the Hurricanes were shopping Martin Necas, and it seemed like that was going to get done. People were speculating it would be a draft day trade. That didn't happen, and still Nothing has happened, and I believe they are going to what is like arbitration for the NHL now, to figure out what a salary looks like for him. So yeah, all things considered, it was pretty fun and exciting day, couple days worth of moves, but definitely some surprises in there too.
Yeah, it's going to be weird seeing Steven Stamkos in a Predators sweater. Very similar to how we felt about Patrick Kane wearing the Red Wings sweater. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting. First time you
I
see that.
think. Sorry to cut you off. I know you mentioned you were surprised by Patrick Kane's 1 year deal too. I completely forgot about that. I think with him now at this point, his health is the biggest thing that is maybe turning teams away from him. He did show he was able to come back from that hip surgery last year, but I think there's still like a proceed with caution flag with him just because it's a hip procedure and you never know what could happen. But I think at this point he's just going to be riding out 1 year deals for his career and maybe makes his way back home to Buffalo for a year or two before he retires. But I think this is probably going to be what we're going to see out of him moving forward. Just 1 year deals after 1 year deals.
Hey man, as long as Showtime can keep being Showtime, that's all I care about. Doesn't matter, how long his contract is, and I'm sure for him, it's probably a different story. Or maybe it was his idea in the first place that he just wants to do 1 year deals to see the situation, and obviously he's going to be a guy that wants to compete for the cup. So
Yeah, I mean, you look at we're seeing it from a little different perspective in the terms of this guy's making much more money and is a little bit bigger of an influence. But we're seeing it with like LeBron. LeBron's pretty much riding out 1 year, 2 year deals with an option, and he has been doing that for a little bit, and he's probably going to do that for the rest of his career too. It's just kind of, I guess, a good business decision for them to navigate what's best for themselves without getting tied in.
yeah, Mister, I'll take a discount to bring another superstar to our team. Okay, I just took $52 million per year. Okay,
Yeah.
bud. All right, so moving on to baseball. So we are technically we're past middle of the season. All-Star break is
Yep.
usually a little bit afterwards, but we have the All-Star weekend coming up shortly. MLB Home Run Derby participants were revealed just as of today. Actually, they finalized the list. The participants that they have are Gunnar Henderson, Pete Alonso, Alec Boehm, Bobby Witt Jr., Adolis Garcia, Teoscar Hernandez, Marcel Ozuna, and Jose Ramirez. So I really like this list personally. I mean, you've got Pete Alonso, who obviously has success. You've got a guy like Adolis Garcia, who seems like it's either a strikeout or a home run at this point in his career. Jose Ramirez, just a really pure hitter. But then you've got some fun guys like Teoscar, Alec Boehm, Bobby Witt Jr., one of the young superstars of the league. So I really like what they've done with the home run derby here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's good to see a little bit of a mix of youth and veteran presence in this derby lineup, and I was kind of surprised that Vlad Guerrero Jr. didn't do it. He is the reigning champ, and I thought he would have wanted to maybe see if he can go at it again. But I know people don't like doing the derby; it messes with their swing, things like that. His name's floated around in trade rumors, so maybe he thought it was best to avoid it. But it should be a pretty fun derby. I know the rules are changing a little bit, and we'll have you get into that here.
Yep.
But it's like these young guys can make it really fun, but at the same time, I also worry like, will the stage be a little bit too big for them, and the lights a little bit too bright? Like obviously Gunnar Henderson's a MVP candidate right now. He's doing his thing, but it's different when you're in a home run derby. It's a different kind of pressure, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. I hope and I think they'll handle it pretty well, but you never know with guys who are getting their first crack at it.
Yeah, it's almost like a quiet stadium type of pressure. You know what I mean? Like when you're playing in games, you've got the stadium crowd going, you've got people booing you, yelling things at you. Home run derby, it's a little bit different, and you've got all the cameras on the field too, and all the players on the field too. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, so they changed some rules for this year. A couple of them I'm fine with. One of them I don't really like personally, but I think there's 3 here. So yeah, there's 3 new rules. First one, knockout style does not begin until the semifinals. So I'm just reading this directly from the MLB website. So what they're saying is last year, the entire Derby was an 8-person single elimination bracket with 3 rounds. Number 1 seed faced the number 8 seed, 2 versus 7, so on and so forth. Seeds were determined based on how many regular season home runs each player hit up to that point. So it was knockout style. So you had to win 3 separate one-on-one matchups to win the overall title. This year, there is still an element of one-on-one showdowns, but it's not going to come into play until the semifinals. So this year's first round will have no predetermined seeds, and it's going to consist of all 8 hitters competing with the 4 top performers advancing to the semifinals. So once they advance to the semifinals, then they're going to do seeding. So it'll be number 1 versus number 4, number 2 versus number 3. But those seeds will be determined on the number of home runs that each player hit in the first round. So they're putting a lot of emphasis on hitting a ton of bombs in the first round. Top 4 number of bombs go to the next round, and then that's how they figure out their seeding. So I personally like this. I think this is really exciting for the home run derby. I think the seeding, based on regular season home runs is kind of stupid because guys get rest, guys get injured. Some, let's be honest, some don't really play in hitter-friendly parks, so they may not have as many home runs as other guys. But what are your thoughts on that part of it?
I think it's a good idea to take more away from matchups, because a lot of times what we'll see is 2 guys really duking it out and hitting, 28 and 29 home runs in a round, and then on the other side of the bracket, you got a guy advancing with like 16 home runs because that's all he needed to hit. So I like that, makes it more competitive, and I wish they would do it for the semifinals too, but I almost think that would be kind of tough. So shifting towards seedings for the semifinals, I think that does make sense. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I think it should be better for the home run derby. People probably won't like it because it's changed, but
yeah,
I think it's at least a good idea. But man, if they're doing all these changes, I think they should just eventually make their way back to the 10-out rule, where you just get 10 outs.
Yeah, I don't really see that happening because they just like the speed and the excitement of it. But
give them 10 outs in metal bats.
Oh, now metal bats would be sick. I'd be down for that.
They could not have kids in the outfield anymore.
No, dude, give them 5 outs in metal bats. They only need 5. That's just insane. They'd be breaking bats, let's be honest. But
yeah,
second rule that they're going to implement, this is the one that I'm not really too fond of. A pitch limit is now in place. So what MLB.com says is last year there's no formal maximum number of pitches that a hitter could see. You would see guys on the mound just throwing pitches, and then other players just taking them until they see it in their sweet spot. And it kind of slowed things down a little bit. But this year, that's no longer the case. So the way it works is the first 2 rounds, there's still going to be 3 minutes, and the final round will be 2 minutes, which is the case before 2024. Now, there's also a maximum number of pitches that each hitter can see in each round. So the first round and the semifinals will conclude whenever 3 minutes or 40 pitches comes first.
That's so stupid.
Likewise, the final will conclude whenever 2 minutes or 27 pitches comes first, excluding the bonus period. Yeah. 27 pitches or 2 minutes in the finals. And I think they're knocking the time down because, let's be honest, guys are usually gassed by the time they make it to the finals. But I don't like the pitch count. I think that's stupid. It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to have a whole ton of rules in place. Just let guys go out there, hit bombs. Time format, sure. Put 3 minutes out there, put 2 minutes out there in the finals, whatever. That's fine. But the pitches, to me, just seem so stupid.
Yeah, that kind of just ruins everything all the good progress they made. But that's how the MLB is. It's like, 5 steps forward, 10 steps back with a lot of the stuff they do.
Yeah.
They're probably doing it so people aren't quite as tired by the time they make the final, but there's something to be said about just two guys who are completely gassed and still just going up there hacking and trying to hit home runs, you know?
Yeah.
That pitch count is terrible, and for 27 pitches in the finals, that's just you're taking away from the excitement. You're limiting how much fun some of these guys can have and how much fun some people are going to have watching this and stuff. So I think that's a pretty bonehead move.
Yeah. I don't personally like it. It equates to about a pitch every 4 seconds, which
Here's my question. It's like these pitchers, they're sure the hitters take pitches, but like a lot of times some of their pitches are garbage. Are the hitters penalized if, a ball comes bouncing in the dirt or goes up over their head? Like, does that count? Like,
yeah,
they're just creating a mess for themselves.
They have to get more creative on who they choose have pitching to them too, because a lot of times it's just like their dad or just shit like that. So I don't know. It's kind of dumb to me. All right, third rule: bonus pitches are no longer on a timer. So last year there was an automatic 30 seconds of extra time granted to each player at the conclusion of the regulation period. Then beyond that, a hitter could also earn an additional 30 seconds of bonus time, giving him a total of 60 bonus seconds if he hit 2 home runs of at least 440 feet during the regulation period. The way they're doing it this year, the bonus pitches are different both in terms of how they're acquired and how long the bonus period lasts. So instead of getting an automatic 30 seconds of extra time, each player now gets bonus pitches up until they record 3 outs within that bonus period. Furthermore, if a player hits a home run of at least 425 feet within that bonus period, then the bonus period is extended to last until the player records his 4th out in that period. To me, this is something that I personally think I just need to see it on TV, right? It seems a little messy. It seems like, the bonus time was fun. Let players hit bombs of 440 or more. Then they get more time. That part I liked about the home run derby. This could be exciting. I think I just need to see it on TV because in writing it's kind of confusing and just, I don't know, it seems a little messy.
Yeah, that's a lot of words there to describe a little bonus period. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
It sounds like they'll have more opportunities for bonus home runs, which cool, but you're still limiting their pitches, so screw you.
Yeah, it's weird, but yeah, those are the updates with the home run derby. Do we want to pick our players right now?
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Okay, let me see. Let me pull
what you want to do again. Two each?
Oh no, we're gonna split the list evenly. We're doing 4 each.
Oh,
yeah, we'll split it evenly. All right, I will start with. Give me, number 1 pick this year is kind of hard. I'm gonna take a flyer here. I'm gonna take Marcell Ozuna.
All right, I'm gonna take Bobby Witt Jr.
Okay, I will take. I'll take Jose Ramirez.
I'll take Gunnar Henderson.
Okay, I will take Alec Boehm.
I gotta look at the list now.
You have between Pete Alonso, Teoscar Hernandez.
I gotta go with my guy Pete.
Hell yeah, I'm taking Teoscar in honor of Oscar. All right, cool.
No, there should be more.
No, I've got Marcell Ozuna, Jose Ramirez, Alec Boehm, and Teoscar.
3, 4. Okay, yeah, I get Adolis Garcia then too.
Yeah, you've got Pete Alonso, Bobby Witt, Adolis Garcia, and Gunnar Henderson.
That's going to be the semifinals right there. That's the murder squad, baby.
Probably. I don't do too well on picking home run derby contestants because I just tend to like to take flyers on them, but we'll see. All All right, guys, that's it in terms of national coverage. We're about to switch over to Chicago coverage. Still a lot of exciting things happening here too. So even if you're not from Chicago, we're going to talk about Blackhawks free agency, some Bulls news, obviously the trade, White Sox stuff, and then Angel Reese has just been on a tear lately. So to start with Chicago coverage, Sean, Blackhawks open free agency. 8 signings that they've made. I'll let you dive into these signings and what they mean for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I think what they mean, number one, and I firmly believe this the whole time. I don't know why people thought that otherwise. They are committed to winning. They are going to prioritize winning, and they did so by making some pretty decent splashes and just overall putting a much better team around Connor Bedard, which is awesome. To break it down for you guys, some of the signings that they have, their big one was Tyler Bertuzzi for 4-year deal, an average of $5.5 million a year. He most recently played with the Maple Leafs. He's 6'1", so you're getting some size, you're getting some scoring there. Joey Anderson, he was a Blackhawk last year. They brought him back for under $1 million. They brought him back for $800,000 actually. He's a good little role player. Another exciting signing for them was they brought back Teuvo Teravainen. For those who are Blackhawks fans, you obviously are familiar. He was on the 2015 Cup team. Brought him back on a 3-year deal worth about $5.4 million a year. Another guy that could score, and just an overall well-rounded player who he's going to be a big help to the Blackhawks too, both offensively, defensively, and with playmaking and stuff. So really excited about that signing too, and I feel like a lot of people are. I thought I noticed quite a bit of people coming out, not out of the woodwork, but just like expressing their excitement about having Teuvo back. So like that one. And then they also signed Pat Maroon, 1 year, $1.3 million deal. He's 6'3", 234 pounds, gritty, nasty type of player, veteran guy. The overall theme here too, along with putting together a better team, that at least I noticed, is they got a lot of veterans that are coming to the Blackhawks too. A lot of guys that have won Stanley Cups. So clearly they're looking to not only improve on the ice, but maybe improve some of the culture and to start really, getting back to a winning organization. Let's see who else we got here. Craig Smith, 1 year, $1 million deal. Pretty much, similar situation to Maroon, another veteran guy. Alec Martinez they signed to a 1-year deal as well. He's a defenseman from Vegas. He'll be a good addition. He's got an injury history with him. Health's always his biggest concern, but if he can play, he'll be a good addition to the Blackhawks. TJ Brody they signed, another defenseman, to a 2-year deal now. Perhaps one of the most underrated signings and maybe surprising ones is Laurent Brossoit. A 2-year, $3.3 million deal for their backup goalie. Now, he's a good player. He had a 15-5 record, .927 save percentage, and allowed about 2 goals a game in 22 starts with the Jets last year. Now, obviously, we knew Soderblom probably saw his time come to an end with the NHL team last year in goal, just because he really struggled. And, obviously they were going to address the backup goalie need on the team. Peter Mrazek, it's still his job, but this is a high-profile backup goalie they got. So they got a pretty good tandem now.
I think he'll compete, honestly. I think he'll compete. I think it's one of those things where they want to see him compete too. So I really like that signing myself.
Yeah, so that kind of brings a halt to the signings that they had here. Things I noticed, big takeaways were overall team is a lot better, I think. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. I do think they will get closer to that, though. Size was a big thing that they added. Veteran leadership was a big thing that they added. And just overall depth for the organization looks a lot better now. Obviously still a ways to go, but for Kyle Davidson to have his first meaningful free agency, I thought he did a pretty good job.
Plus, You look at it this way. We just talked about 8 signings. 6 of those are 2 years or less. So not only are you bringing in veteran leadership, but it also positions you to where when free agency opens up again, maybe next year or the year after, you're positioning yourself to be able to continue to make splashes. So that's what I really liked about it. Honestly, of all the signings, with the exception of Tyler Bertuzzi, the biggest one, Artem Levshinov, signed his ELC and he's going to go pro instead of returning to Michigan State. I personally thought this was pretty big news. I think a lot of people saw him leaning Michigan State, but I think this is really good for both for him and for the Blackhawks. What's your impression with him deciding not to go back to Michigan State?
Yeah, I was a little surprised by it. I was one that thought he'd probably head back to Michigan State, and the Blackhawks would definitely be okay with him doing that. But after listening to, so the Blackhawks had their off-ice development camp after the draft ended, and it's basically, for those who don't know, teams do development camps. A lot of times it's just scrimmages and drills on the ice with new draft picks, things like that. The Blackhawks do it a little differently, where it's off the ice. So they do like cooking competitions, and I think they do like yoga and different just team building activities that doesn't require them being on the ice. Now, Kyle Davidson spoke a little bit there, and he started talking about, we're supportive with whatever Artem decides to do, whether that's go to Michigan State or go to join the Blackhawks organization. And he talked about how he feels like either decision is a good decision, but getting him in now helps them get their hands on him. They can work with him all the time. He's around them all the time. And when he started talking about that, I figured, okay, well, maybe they're going to make a pretty good push to get him to come turn professional. And turns out he ended up doing so. He'll play in Rockford next year. I'd be surprised if he was anywhere else. And, Rockford will probably have a pretty fun team to watch because, like we just mentioned, with all these signings and things like that, that leaves room for like your Frank Nazars or even maybe your Kevin Korchinski to go play in Rockford, and then, hey, that's a couple pieces of your future, or you're hoping are part of your future, all playing together. So it'll be exciting to watch them too. But yeah, I was a little surprised by it. But obviously, when you're taking a guy second overall, that's always a possibility they can go pro.
The people of Rockford are going to have a really fun team to watch. They're lucky. One thing I didn't really have on my deck to talk about, but I think it's interesting to bring up now post-draft. Have you heard anything about Demidov and the likelihood that he goes back to Russia, or if he's actually going to come overseas and play? Have you heard any updates on that?
No, there probably won't be anything until closer to the end of his season. It's that mostly, I think, goes quiet until they get close to being done and he starts to see what his future can really look like. So no, there really hasn't been much, at least that I've seen, on his situation.
That'll be an interesting one to watch. All right, let's dive into some Bulls news. They've got a lot of movement going on here. Thank God, you guys, we are done with continuity with the Bulls. It seems like they keep wanting to make more moves. There's talks of Levine. Nobody wants him. There's talks about Vooch. I don't really think many people want him either, but it seems like they are – we know that. It seems like they are committed to getting younger, more athletic, so I'm very grateful for that, however it happens. But, yeah, so to dive into the Bulls, they signed Jalen Smith, 3-year, $27 million deal. I think this is purely just a move of let's get this guy some more playing time to see what kind of player he really is. He kind of disappeared a little bit in the playoffs, but I know he was fairly productive last season. I like the signing. It's $27 million over 3 years. You're not shoving a ton of money his way, so I think that was a good move. What'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's as of right now, it looks like he's the backup big, so he's a good guy to come off the bench. He'll give you some scoring, and he's an athletic player. So for the value they got from him, I think that's a really good signing, and he should have a chance to really flourish in Chicago, just given the fact that he's probably going to get a lot more minutes than he's seen before. So he'll be fun to watch, and I think he could be a good fit along the rest of the young guys and stuff that we got. So I'm definitely happy with that. And even though that's been the only signing that they've had, I think it was a good one.
Yeah, I think so too. I saw him briefly on the Suns too. He was pretty productive here. Love the glasses. Got to keep wearing those glasses, homie.
You should get you a pair.
I'll wear them on the pod. If you send them, I will wear them on the pod. You heard it here first. All right, so getting into the trade, DeMar DeRozan goes to the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, a lot of people probably already know the trade, so I'll just recap it. Kings get DeMar DeRozan. Spurs get Harrison Barnes, which I thought was a really nice scoop for them, just to come in and say, hey, yeah, we'll help facilitate. The Bulls get Chris Duarte, 2 second-round picks, and then there was another guy that came out this week. He's just
they waived him.
Yeah,
or they're going to.
Yeah. So it's mainly just Duarte, 2 second-round picks. We don't know what years those picks are yet. We haven't heard anything. In this situation, you were never going to get a king's ransom for DeMar, but for the Bulls to just start to turn the page was really the biggest factor for them here. Chris Duarte, he was a guy that was productive early on in his career that kind of has died off a little bit, but I think he's another guy. He just needs more playing time. Let's see what kind of player he actually is, and with the way this Bulls roster is shaping up, it looks like he's going to get plenty of playing time. So I like it. It's fine. Let's turn the page. At this point, we're probably going to turn these 2 second-round picks, throw those in with Levine as a way to ship out Levine. I've been hearing a little bit about that too, so it's really just more so Chris Duarte for DeMar DeRozan at this point, but that's fine if that unloads Levine too.
Yeah, I think bigger picture, if that ends up being the case, you kind of look at what you were also able to do with those picks, and that obviously will help the Bulls too if they can move on from Levine. But hey, I mean, Chris Duarte is probably, he's probably not going to be like a stud, but he was really good his first year in Indiana, and then he started to see his time on the court decrease, and as a result, he wasn't as productive. He should play a lot in Chicago. So again, another guy that could maybe he turns the clock back a little bit. I'm not expecting him to be like some star or anything like that, but maybe a really good role player for the Bulls down the line, or a good, 6th, 7th man off the bench. Obviously you would have liked to have maybe gotten more for DeRozan, but the Bulls kind of made this bet for themselves. Had they traded him even a year ago, you're probably looking at a couple first-round picks, maybe a little bit more. But as much as we talked about how we wanted DeRozan gone and we wanted the Bulls to move on, it's hard not to appreciate what he brought to the city of Chicago and Bulls basketball. He was viewed as washed up and even labeled as one of the worst free agent signings that year. And ended up having a very, very productive 3 years in Chicago. He, I think, averages the second most points per game ever from a Bull, behind Jordan. He was a all-star and just an overall good dude that made his mark on a lot of these young guys we're going to start seeing now. And as a Bulls fan, we know the team's not going to be as good. They weren't that good before, so it's not a big deal. But now you're hoping that DeMar DeRozan tenure still gives us a little bit more value, in the sense of these young guys take that leap now that they're on their own. It's like the Ninja Turtles. The master, I forget his name. He's letting them go now. They're on their own. So now they just we'll see what happens. I know we always talk about I wish with this guy, but I think this is going to be the year Patrick Williams takes off, and I think a lot of that's going to have to do with what he learned from DeMar and spending time playing closely to him over the last few years. And man, I just hope I'm right there.
It's Master Splinter with Ninja Turtles, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, Patrick Williams. No, I'm done with you. Please prove me wrong, though. Please, by all means, because if you could be, I don't know, even 3/4 as good as you were projected to be on draft night, I'm fine with that. Yeah. So to get back to Chris Duarte, so you talked about his time in Indiana. His first year, he averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists over about 28 minutes. So if we can get that type of production out of him, I'd be thrilled with that. That's totally fine by me. I think you bring up a good point. It's the moment where DeMar DeRozan passes the torch to these younger guys, and let's be honest, DeMar DeRozan, thank you, man, for all that you did for Chicago. You were an absolute consummate professional in your time here during really, really tough seasons, really frustrating seasons. So we appreciate you. We'll always appreciate you. You were only here for 3 years, but you're forever a Bulls legend. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy he gets to go compete. Apparently the Kings...
How about the welcome he got there too, man?
Yeah.
They might have a parade for that, man, which was cool to see too. Like, he deserves that, you know. He obviously, I believe him when he said he wanted to stay in Chicago. Like, he's a loyal dude.
Yeah.
And the fact that he gets to go home now and be so warmly welcomed, that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I agree. They obviously are very excited to have him, and there's rumors that they're not done. They're looking at Lauri Markkanen.
Levine.
Yeah, please, please take him. I highly doubt that will happen, but please. Vooch, yeah, you can take him too. Speaking of, that's actually my next point. So Casey Johnson reported on the latest Bulls Talk podcast, he did say there's about a 50-50 shot that Zach is going to be gone before the season. It does sound like he spoke with Rich Paul, who is Zach LaVine's agent. And the consensus is that they will find a new home for Zach at some point. Now, us being impatient Bulls fans, we want that home to be as soon as possible. But at the end of the day, he's going to be shipped when he's going to be shipped. And as long as they're still going young, turning the page, getting more athletic, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it seems like this LaVine and Bulls relationship has gone pretty sour.
Bad
over the last few years, and I don't quite understand it. I feel like the Bulls have kind of done everything they can to please Zach and make him happy. They
paid
number
the guy.
one, paid the guy. Number two, went out and traded. And granted, it didn't work, and there's not much you can do in that situation. But they traded for an all-star in Vooch to help build around Zach. They signed DeMar DeRozan. And it's like now all of a sudden, like, everything the Bulls do isn't good enough for him. Like, that kind of confuses me, and that also makes me think, like, I don't know if I want that guy around the team now, because he clearly has a little bit of issues where, you know, he seems to have a bad attitude about all this, and I don't think I really want that trickling into the locker room when the Bulls are finally actually committed to doing this youth thing. Like, Vooch, if they can get rid of him or not, whatever. Like, he's not a harmful person, it seems like. He just kind of will be there and do his own thing, collect his check, and go home, you know?
Yeah.
Versus Zach, he's a little bit more outspoken. He has the clutch representation with him. They're a little bit outspoken. And I would like to move on from that as soon as possible, and definitely before the season. Now it just seems like it seems like it's harder than we maybe realize for them to actually get a deal done. So I would say I'm believing he might be around, but just kind of hoping that isn't the case.
I think if I had it my way, I'd say get rid of Zach now and Vooch at the trade deadline, because it'll give Vooch an opportunity to inflate his stats with Zach being gone. Obviously, you still have Kobe White. Maybe Pat Williams starts to score a little bit more, but if Vooch can inflate his stats just from purely the lack of players that can score on the Bulls, then, you know, maybe his price tag goes up a little bit too. So, or it just makes team reason with his contract. So we'll see. Sean, unfortunately, my Grizzlies summer league hopes are just falling down the drain here. They just lost. They are 1-2 in the summer league right now, so that's not good. Anyways, moving on. So, Summer League does start for the Bulls this weekend. Just some names to talk about. We've done quite a bit of Bulls talk here. Just some names that I noticed that they've got on the roster. Obviously, Matis Buzelis, Marcus Domask. I talked about those two. The shooter from Illinois. They've got Julian Phillips, the guy that they drafted last year from Tennessee. Adama Sanogo, a guy that I personally got to see in person. That was pretty cool, watching Miami play UConn in the Final Four.
What happened in that game?
I don't know. I don't remember. My memory doesn't serve me well. But they lost to the champs, so there it is. Yeah, those are just some names that I noticed. Are there any other guys that you want to add?
No. I mean, they got Billy Donovan's son coaching the team, which was, I guess that's kind of cool. I got a notification once they finalized their summer league roster, and it just said coached by Billy Donovan, and then it cut off, so I didn't see the full thing. And I had a moment there where I was like, why is Billy Donovan coaching the summer league team?
You know,
I realized it was his son.
I wouldn't be surprised if it actually was him. He does like working with younger players, so I wouldn't be shocked. But yeah, I mean, they start this weekend, so I know I'm going to tune in definitely to see Matis Buzelis and see what the hype is all about there. Your Jazz just started out on a 5-0 run to kickstart their summer league game tonight.
It's going to be a 50-0 run.
Yeah, we'll see about that. All right, White Sox talk, dude. Let's dive into it. We've got a good amount to talk about here. One thing we can mention, it's Wednesday, July 10th again. Drew Thorpe was on the mound today. He had another pretty nice outing. I think it was 2 earned runs over 6 innings. He's looking pretty solid, so I'm really happy with what I'm seeing with Drew Thorpe. But to talk about a guy that is obviously an ace, our number one, I think he'd be a number one on pretty much every team across the MLB, maybe 3 or 4 teams that have an ace above Garrett Crochet, but it is Garrett Crochet, named to the All-Star team. Do you think he's going to start?
I think there's a good chance. I don't think they'll do it. I think if they played for someone else, they would maybe give it to him. Yeah. I think he would be great as an all-star game starter because he'll come out and he'll pump 100, 101.
Oh, yeah.
And give full max effort for that inning.
Put him out there for the home run derby, dude.
Yeah. Which I think if the MLB, obviously it's not their choice, it's up to the managers and stuff, but I think they could maybe nudge him and be like, hey, this would be great, this would be great for viewership to kick it off like this. So I don't think it'll be him. I think it'll be either Corbin Burns or Tarek Skubal from the Tigers. They're both doing really, really, really good too. And all 3 of them are deserving, and I think you could go with any of them and you wouldn't be wrong. I'm just going to guess they'll probably go Corbin Burns because he's a little bit more of a household name. Maybe they might get people to have more eyes on the game, or they think they will by putting his name in the starting spot, or I don't know. Maybe the manager gets weird and picks none of them. But it'd be really cool if Garrett Crochet were able to start, and especially with all the trade rumors and stuff surrounding his name, that'd be a fun little, hey, look what I can really do to the rest of the teams on a really big stage for him. The biggest one he'll play on all year by far and away, unless he gets traded to a contending team.
Just burn through the best hitters in baseball. I think it'll be Corbin Burns personally, because the MLB, man, they were hitting the storylines hard when Corbin Burns was traded in the offseason, so I think they just double down on that in all reality. Who knows? I mean, maybe they have no say in the decision, but I'd like to think that they do. But yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to see Garrett Crochet. He has been just absolutely phenomenal this year. He's 9th in the AL with a 3.08 ERA, leads MLB with 146 strikeouts. He's 5th in baseball with a 0.97 whip, 5th in the AL with holding opponents to a 203 average. So absolutely incredible resurgence for Garrett Crochet with his career. Phenomenal year so far. His name's being floated. It's kind of a complicated situation with him because he's going to be on an innings limit this year. So teams are looking at that, like, how long will we have him around for? What's his availability going to be like when it matters most as we're approaching the postseason? So we'll see. It's been fun to watch him go out and shove every night, but we've got some young guys, man, to talk about too. There's been a lot of movement in the minors. I know some of the ones that I highlighted: Kai Bush, Brooks Baldwin, Edgar Caro, were all promoted to Charlotte from Birmingham. Do you want to touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah, Charlotte's becoming the new Birmingham. They're getting all the good prospects. They got no, those three are deserving. They've been doing really, really well in Birmingham all year, so it's nice to see them be able to move up and get to the last stop before the big show. I know Baldwin and Caro both homered in their debut, which was sweet, and in that game too. Colson Montgomery hit a home run, so that was pretty fun to see. Getting a little glimpse into the future there. Kai Bush just pitched last night. It did not go very well for him. He started out great, but then he got hit around a little bit, and he pitched out of relief, which I thought was interesting, but I didn't know what Charlotte's rotation status looked like. I just know like guys like Clevenger are there doing rehab stints and things like that, so maybe it's a little out of whack, and he'll get in there eventually. But exciting times, yeah. Now Charlotte's got those guys plus Colson Montgomery, Brian Ramos. So they're starting to be the team to watch. And we are recording this on Wednesday. The White Sox had a doubleheader against the Twins today. They called up Jake Eder as their 27th man, who is a left-handed starting pitcher in Birmingham. He's also been doing pretty good this year. Now this move was made, and Eder will head back to Charlotte. He will not be going back to Birmingham. So Charlotte once again is going to be getting another prized prospect arm in the White Sox system. So I've been watching a lot of Birmingham Barons this year, and that is going to shift over towards the Charlotte Knights now.
And honestly, man, props to Brooks Baldwin too. This is a guy that was drafted 371st.
He's a player, dude.
371st overall in 2022. He's averaging across the board in the minors 321. He's got 7 homers, 38 RBI, 16 stolen bases, an OPS of 828. So he's playing really, really good ball right now. Who knows? Maybe a flyer at 371 ends up working out for us, because that's just how the White Sox work. They don't spend money. They get lucky. So we'll see. But, yeah, kind of a cool story to be drafted.
He's got a lot of versatility, too. He plays multiple positions defensively. I think he's a guy that has an MLB future, at the very least, as a utility or role player. But he could be an everyday player too, and I wouldn't be shocked either. The kid's he's a good, well-rounded ball player, and I've really enjoyed watching him this year.
Man, if he can bring like the same type of like energy that like Tommy Pham brings, I'm fine with that. There's only one Tommy Pham, baby. There's only enough for one in this world. We can't have two. I'm gonna miss that guy when he inevitably gets traded. Yeah, he will. But
he's
yeah,
awesome.
to get something like that at 371, that's cool. I mean, I'd like to see that continue. All right.
I would too.
So for MLB draft, it's Sunday the 14th, so in 4 days. I've got some names that I know the White Sox are linked to, as well as guys that I'd personally like to see them take. One of them, J.J. Weatherholt. This guy, a lot of people are saying could be the best pure hitter in the class. Obviously, you've got Jack Caglione in there too. But really the only question with this guy is his injury history.
Yeah, he's got bad hamstrings, I think.
Yep. But across the board, insanely productive player. I mean, he won Division I batting title, Big 12 Conference Player of the Year. He hit .449, 16 home runs, 36 steals. So he's one name that I'm keeping an eye on, that he might not even be available at 5, but I'd like to see the Sox look at him if he was. The other guy, Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I think there's a good chance he goes 1. JJ Weatherholt.
That'd be something.
And I say that because Cleveland, they have the first pick, and they're one of those teams that likes spreading money out across the draft.
So they'll just underslot.
And I think they'll look at Weatherholt's, what he brings to the table with what it would cost to get him, and I think they'll be very, very intrigued by that. And I think there's probably a pretty good chance he goes 1. And it's weird because if he doesn't go 1, then I think he's there at 5. It makes no sense, but it's how the MLB draft is. It's a different beast. But I think I think you're probably looking at he's either going 1 or he's going 5. There's a good chance for either one of those.
Yep. I wouldn't mind seeing him at 5. The other guy that I'm looking at is Connor Griffin. Obviously, this guy's one of the most tooled up prospects in the high school class. Gatorade National High School Player of the Year. He has a pretty big frame, 6'4", 205 pounds, well above average speed. He's got 30-30 upside. He has been linked to the White Sox quite a bit too. So that's the second guy that I would like to see the Sox potentially take at 5. I know they're looking into quite a few high school guys right now, so there's a decent chance here. But those are the two guys that I had listed for potential suitors at number 5.
Yeah, I think Connor Griffin, I think there's a really good chance he is the guy, and a realistic chance that he is the guy. When you look at what Mike Shirley has done since he took over as the scouting director, he has put an emphasis on getting high school talent, and I think they'll like what Griffin can bring to the organization. He's a super, super, super athletic guy who can play shortstop or outfield. He pitched in high school. Just one of those guys that oozes athleticism that you really like and teams will really like. There are some questions about his hit tool overall, but teams like the power he has, his athleticism, his arm, his speed, his size, all that other stuff. It's just the real big question is, will he be able to hit at the major league level? And I've listened to some podcasts and stuff gearing up for this draft, and it sounds like if he was a consistent hitter, or teams felt confident in his hit tool, like very, very confident, he could probably go number 1, and a lot of teams would take him number 1. But I think I'd be surprised if it wasn't him. Now this is assuming that he makes it to 5. If he's there in the White Sox are on the board, I think he'll be the pick. Otherwise, JJ Weatherholt's a name that I think I would consider there as well. And then just also seeing how the board falls in front of them. I know they do have it seems like they do have pretty good interest in Jack Caglione. If he makes it to 5, I think even if they have a choice between Griffin and Caglione at 5, I do think they would go Caglione there.
Yeah.
I really have a hard time believing he'll be there. But otherwise, yeah, I'm with you on those two names. I think those are both realistic guys who the Sox have a good chance of taking here. And if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Connor Griffin just because I like taking the flyer on the high school kids.
Yeah, and honestly, he does control the strike zone pretty well. He makes regular contact. I think his tools just need to be translated to big league ball. And to be honest with you, man, like, the guy's 18 years old. A lot of these younger guys' tools have to be translated to big league ball. You know what I mean? But that's why you draft them when they're young, because then you can develop those tools yourself and, you know, work with the trainers and work with the coaches and hitting coaches. So did you want to add any other players, or did you literally have the same two that I mentioned?
I just had the same two that you mentioned. I think we can both agree to that there's no way they take a pitcher at 5.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if they took a pitcher at 5, but I just was pulling up Connor Griffin's scouting report on MLB Pipeline and was just glancing over it really quickly. So MLB Pipeline gives him 60 grade power, 65 grade run, 70 arm, 60 grade field, overall 60. His lowest graded tool is his hit tool, and that's 50. I
So
know
hang on, Sean. Can you explain what this means to people that are listening?
Yeah, so gosh, it's 40 to 80 is the scouting range for prospects and things like that. 40 being the lowest, 80 being the highest. People never really get 80s. It's just, but it's there. Um, so anything above 40, I believe, is average to above average. Once you get into the 60s and 70s, those are obviously your more elite traits, things that are really sticking out from their game. So kind of looking at that across the board, pretty much everything sticks out for Connor Griffin. Hit tool is maybe about average, maybe slightly above average. People are a little turned off that he played high school baseball in Mississippi. They think that's not great competition, but playing devil's advocate here, I look that he's an LSU commit, and if LSU is willing to take him, that's probably a pretty good sign about the kid. Dylan Cruz was another guy they had who was a high schooler going into the draft, and people were questionable about him and his ability to sign and to get into an organization. Then he ended up going to LSU, and now look where he's at. So a lot to like with Connor Griffin's game. He's 6'4" too. Obviously, we love that, and like you're saying, these high school kids are interesting. You get them in, and they can develop, and this is how you get a superstar for at least the White Sox these days because they're not spending on them. And speaking of development, you look at a kid like George Wolkow from Downers Grove North that they took last year. He should have been graduating about a couple weeks ago from high school, and now all of a sudden he's just starting to light the world on fire in Kannapolis, which is A-ball affiliate for the White Sox. So, you never know with these guys. Sure, they could flame out, and that's not out of the realm of possibilities, but then you can have guys that come in, and you're like, holy crap, like I think we got something here.
Yeah, and they really liked his size and frame too when he was coming out of high school. I was really excited about him. So here's something interesting. Last thing about Connor Griffin. I was just looking into some news on him too myself. This guy successfully stole 87 bases in 88 attempts.
I've heard that.
Insane.
And I think the time he got thrown out, he was like trying to steal home or something.
That is absolutely insane. So, yeah, I think he's obviously a name that's being linked to the White Sox for good reason. A lot of talent there, a lot of tools there. He's 18. You're still going to have to brush up on certain things, but we will know on Sunday. Last topic. I am going to let you take reins on this one, Sean. This is right into your wheelhouse. We're going to talk about Chicago Sky. We're going to talk about Angel Reese. Tell us more about your girl. What's been happening in the world of Angel Reese?
She's been destroying all the haters and dominating the WNBA, man. That's what she's doing. She's letting people get their takes off, then she's showing up and she's getting, 15 and 13 or 11 and 18. She is on a run that we have never seen before. She has the all-time WNBA record for most consecutive double-doubles, and I am trying to find the record she broke. I know it was Candace Parker. Let's see here.
She's at 14 straight games right now.
14 straight. So, okay, so Candace Parker had 12 in a row. Why is they making this so hard for me to read? Oh no, Candace Parker said. Okay, so Candace Parker said it with 10 in a row from the 2009 and 2010 seasons. So, 10 double doubles in a row was the previous record. As Kevin just said, Angel Reese has extended that to 14 in a row as of today. So not only did she tie the record, break the record, she's extending it. Really, really, really impressive what she's doing. I know a lot of people don't like her and are looking at, she's just throwing up misses and getting the rebound and putting it back up. It's like, well, someone's got to do it, She's turning into a really exciting player and, making it seem like it was worth taking her at at 7 in the draft, and I know she's really enjoying her time in Chicago too. She called me and told me that the other day.
Nice. Did you guys have a nice conversation?
Yeah, I've been coaching her on how to get these double doubles. No, I just seen in the press conference, and she had like a tweet the other night where she was like, "One thing's for sure, I love that I was drafted by the Chicago Sky," and I'm like, "That's freaking awesome, man." But yeah, she has been doing some things we've never seen before. She was named to the All-Star team. Asterisk next to that because a lot of the WNBA people who would be All-Stars are playing for Team USA, but still was named an All-Star. I believe her and Caitlin Clark are the only two rookies to be named to the All-Star team, or at least in a while. So really good stuff, and just, being even more exciting than maybe people thought she was going to be when she was coming into the WNBA. So all in all, it's been fun watching her on this run.
Yeah, she's just the type of player that when the media and other fans start talking, she just kind of soaks it all, and she's like, keep talking, please. Keep talking, keep making comments, keep giving me shit. So I give her a lot of credit, man. She's answered to a lot of haters this year. And to be honest, some of this was brought upon by herself, but a lot of it was not. And she's just showed up, man. She's been really fun to watch. She's great for the city of Chicago because she's got that like badass attitude to her, so she fits right in. So we will see how long the streak lasts for. Hopefully our next pod still going strong. I know they've got All-Star Weekend coming up soon too, so there may be
I was just pulling up and seeing. They play tomorrow night, they play Saturday, then they play Tuesday. So we got three chances here for this to extend before we record again.
The All-Star game is July 20th, so, and it's out here actually in Arizona, so maybe I'll go get you an autograph, Sean.
Sunday, August 18th, if you're free, you can go watch her play in Phoenix.
Now we're talking. All right, guys, that's it. That covers everything. A little bit of a longer episode tonight, but that's just the nature of taking a week off with 4th of July. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Make sure to give us a follow if you don't already on Instagram. Share our page. Shoot us a message if you want to see anything. But that recaps this week, and we will see you all next week. Take care.